Mayday.live calls for urgent action from the UN, NASA, and the US government to slow the acceleration of global warming. Can the oceans rise more than 30 cms in an accelerated manner? Thesis: if the oceans were to rise 30 centimeters more at an accelerated rate, this would have catastrophic effects at the global economic level. 1. All coastal properties would be worth zero. No one would be able to sell them anymore, because it would become evident that the waters will continue to increase by meters as a result of global melting. 2. The stock markets around the world would explode. At an economic level, everything is interconnected. Values are based on real estate and international trade. If coastal properties suddenly go to zero, this equates to trillions of dollars in losses simultaneously. 3. Currencies will break out for the same reason as 2. 4. The Treasury will no longer be able to collect in coastal cities. Nobody will want to pay when they have lost all value in their properties and their inhabitants have been reduced to environmental hostages, who, without being able to sell, go on to observe how the waters continue to rise until they become completely their cities uninhabitable. 5. According to the WMO prediction, we will break the threshold of 1.5 degrees to 1.8 degrees C in the next 5 years, with a probability margin of 40%. 6. Scientists estimate that the next solar maximum will occur around 2025, a period in which the activity of the sun intensifies within the framework of solar cycles. 7. The global El Niño, also known as the El Niño Southern Oscillation, which occurs from time to time in the tropical Pacific, is forecast to begin to be felt between July 2023 and January 2024. The El Niño phenomenon is a weather event, global warming of sea waters, and causes severe flooding as well as drought in different countries around the world. 8. As a consequence of the synchronization of factors 5, 6, and 7, from the end of 2023 the Thwaites and Pine Island glaciers will show accelerated melting and ocean waters may rise the first 30 centimeters. This will trigger the global economic effects in domino effects 1, 2, 3, and 4. Basics. What is happening to the ice in Antarctica? The complete melting of the West Antarctic ice sheet would cause a 3.3 m rise in global sea level. The world is currently headed for 2.8 degrees Celsius warming by the end of the century. What is happening in Antarctica 2023? Increase of El Niño will cause irreversible melting in Antarctica. The panorama was revealed in an investigation by the scientific agency of the Australian government, CSIRO, which ensures that El Niño would cause an increase in the temperatures of underwater waters. Scientists from the British Antarctic Survey, BAS, have released, March 13, 2023, the first visual record of iceberg at 81, a huge mass of ice that is the size of London and that broke off from Antarctica on January 22. Currently, the A81 iceberg is heading south due to the strong sea current, rotating on itself, while floating about 150 kilometers from its origin, the Brunt Ice Shelf, an area that is affected by climate change. But A81 is only the second most important iceberg in the region in recent years. A massive 3,200 square kilometer mass that broke off the Filchner ice shelf in May 2021, 76 is the largest floating iceberg on the planet, although it is currently divided into 3 pieces. For example, another iceberg called 68A released 152,000 million tons of fresh water into the ocean, which surely affected the salinity of the water and the reproduction of phytoplankton or zooplankton, vital for many species. Antarctic sea ice shrank last week to its smallest extent in 45 years of satellite record, U.S. researchers said on Monday, February 27, 2023. The National Snow and Ice Data Center, NSIDC, at the University of Colorado at Boulder noted that Antarctic sea ice shrank to 1.79 million square kilometers on February 21. This figure exceeded the previous record low in 2022 by 136,000 square kilometers. If the temperature increase is only 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, the most ambitious goal of the Paris Agreement, 49% of the world's glaciers will disappear. A loss like that will represent about 26% of the total mass of ice, since the first to melt will be the smallest. In this scenario, the researchers estimate that the sea level will rise by about 3 inches, an increase to which the melting of the polar ice caps will add even more inches of oceanic rise. The Thwaites Glacier is one of the largest in Antarctica. Its total area is 192,000 square kilometers, similar to that of Great Britain. 1/3 is the ice shelf, floating layers of frozen water. The Thwaites is one of the main barriers against sea level rise worldwide. The problem is that the ice shelf is cracking more and more. The researchers warn of a dramatic change in the glacier. In the next 3 to 5 years, a 45 km long section of the Thwaites floating in the sea could break off like a car windscreen, glaciologist Ted Scambos told the BBC. A breach in the ice shelf would have far-reaching consequences. Until now, that section has acted as a retaining wall against the advancing glacier from the mainland. If the ice shelf disappears, the ice from the glacier will flow unchecked into the sea. Much of the glacier could collapse into free-floating icebergs, researchers fear. None of this is new. In 2017, the gigantic iceberg A68 broke off the Larsen Sea ice shelf in West Antarctica. The breaking of large icebergs is a normal process, but the fact that the A68 broke off in July, in the middle of the coldest Antarctic winter, puzzled specialists. Scientists suspect a relationship to climate change. The massive A68 iceberg isn't the only one that has broken off its ice cap. In the last 20 years, 7 ice shelves on the Antarctic peninsula have disintegrated or drastically shrunk. The ice that flows from the glaciers now reaches the sea directly, and contributes to the increase in its level. The reason why the Thwaites Glacier is melting is climate change and rising sea temperatures. That increasingly undermines the huge glacier, at the bottom of which are huge melted hollows that have spawned ice caves. The outflow of water from the glacier, which is under the meticulous scrutiny of science, has doubled in the last 30 years. The Thwaites and Pine Island glaciers are already responsible for 10% of global sea level rise. The imminent collapse of the Thwaites would, however, have consequences much more catastrophic. If that happened, the rise in sea level would be 65 centimeters globally, on average. But that would be just the beginning. Because Thwaites acts as a plug and slows down the flow of neighboring glaciers, such as Pine Island, pictured, it is also known as Doomsday Glacier. Its collapse could give way to much of the Antarctic ice, whose arrival at sea would raise its level by up to 3.30 meters. To do? Stop crying over spilled milk. Gentlemen at GSL Systems and Mayday.live, we have had the courage to activate the Planetary Climate Emergency Master Plan. Now it is your turn to act. We are referring to you, Mr. Secretary of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, Mr. General Administrator of NASA, Bill Nelson, and Mr. President of the United States, Joe Biden. Climate inaction is over. We have taken the initiative from the private sector. Now we need you to support, cooperate, and act together with us. 2 key and priority actions are urgent. 1 degree activate the SCOPEX project, controlled stratospheric perturbation experiment, developed by Harvard University, with the aim of buying extra climate time, reducing the global average temperature by 1.5 degrees C. And doing it gradually to test possible effects of negative environmental impacts. 2 degrees activate the forest card, which will donate 50% of the net profit obtained, plus the optional 0.2 to 2% for each purchase of users adhering to the program, to have funds to be applied in the immediate planting of 30 billion trees, if possible of the Kiri species, per year, up to a total of 900 billion, in free areas of the planet. Thus capturing CO2 in the logs, then felling them, burying them and returning this greenhouse gas to the subsoil. In this way, excess CO2 will be extracted and intelligent control of the global climate will begin by regulating atmospheric CO2. Also, this program must be complemented with CO2 extractor fans tested in Canada. Note, for the ScopeX project we have access to high levels of funding. What is required is that governments bear the costs and offer a guarantee to cover the costs. In the face of an emergency, the two main superpowers, the United States and China, can come together and cover the initial costs. When should we do it? We have time until December 2023 to avoid the worst effects of the acceleration of global warming in process. For the intensive tree planting program, we have started contacts with the company Dinners. It should be reported that despite all the efforts that are applied, all these measures are untimely, corrective and not preventive. Time ran out for prevention. Due to the inertia of the CO2 already emitted, it is possible that not all negative impacts can be cushioned and partial accelerations of the ongoing climate anomaly occur. In other words, it is highly probable that the Thwaites Glacier will crack in 2027 and completely thaw. To act or not to act, the immediate future of all forms of life on our beautiful planet Earth now depends on this decision.